them. So I've got 5 after. Let's go ahead and start, Laura.
All right, so I'm ready to go, and I hope everybody else is. Welcome to this edition of Move to Amend's monthly live stream, the Move to Amend Report. This is the space where you can learn about what's going down in the movement to amend the U.S. Constitution and legalize democracy. I'm your host, Laura Bonham, Move to Amend National Board member, and with me is Caitlin Saposi-Belknap, our National Director. We, as Caitlin said, and I'll repeat it again, we really encourage your participation as we go along. So if you have any questions for the national team, make a comment during the live stream, and we'll answer your question in real time.
And I guess we should also add, if you're tuning into the recording, you can also post your question in the comments, and we will make sure to catch up with that and get an answer to you as well. Laura and I won't be able to live here, but we'll comment a response from our social media team. So as we go, we welcome any suggestions you have for improvement. We've been doing this process for a few months now, so please let us know how these live streams are working for you. You can post in the comments where you're tuning in from, and Keyan and Garrett are working the comments, so they'll be posting links and follow-up details about the projects and the events that we reference. So let us know that you're here by posting a comment to tell us where you're tuning in from and if you're active with Move to Amend yet in your community.
Well, Caitlin, we're in the home stretch before next month's Democracy Convention in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's August 2nd through 6th. And Move to Amend is organizing one of 8 different conferences that all fall under the banner of the Democracy Convention. And the different conferences that will be happening all at once are Community and Economic Democracy Conference, Earth Rights and Global Democracy Conference, Education United for Democracy Conference, Media Democracy Conference, Peace and Democracy Conference, Racial Justice for Democracy Conference, Representative Democracy Conference, and then Move to Amend is organizing the Democratizing the Constitution Conference.
Yep, so
which is right up our alley. Huh?
Right. This is our 3rd Democracy Convention that we've done. And just to be clear to everyone, when we say Democracy Convention, this is not associated in any way with any political party. So we're not saying the Democratic Party Convention, we're saying the Democracy Convention. And when we are saying democracy, we mean the people rule, which is what democracy means. So this is a conference about empowering all of our different social justice movements coming together and looking at how really what our umbrella issue is that all of us need to address is democracy. If we don't have the power to implement the changes that we want to see around the environment or around the elections or around police brutality or economics, living wage, all of these things. If we don't actually have the power to implement the policies that we know would benefit people and stop the destruction, then we're not going to get very far, right? So the Democracy Convention is a unique opportunity to universalize resistance and power, and to do it, in kind of a whirlwind of all these 8 conferences happening at the same time, but also synergistically together in several of conversations that we'll do, that will be convention-wide. It's in Minneapolis, so we don't do it in DC or even Chicago or the Bay Area. This is in the Midwest. There's still time and opportunity for those of you who live near Minneapolis, relatively speaking. It's worth a drive. It's worth a day drive. This conference is really special and doesn't happen every year. So if you can make it, we would encourage you to do so. It's a very affordable conference, an accessible conference, so that everybody who wants to come can. And you can find out all the details at democracyconvention.org, which Garrett and Keyan will post to you to follow the link. And you can also see the full program online. Those of you who are coming, if you're tuning in, I want to make sure that you know that if you want to come to the Move to Amend leadership meeting, which is basically Thursday, we'll be doing an internal meeting for folks who are active with Move to Amend or who want to start Move to Amend groups in your community. So if you're tuning in and you're coming to the Democracy Convention, you want to make sure to separately register for that session. So if you go to our Democratizing the Constitution sessions and you click on the Thursday meeting, then you'll get a link to how to register for that. So it's a additional registration you'll need to do in order to attend, because we want to make sure that only folks who are already active with Move to Amend on some level are there, and then the rest of our conference will be open to anybody. So yeah, we have a lot to do before we leave on Tuesday here from those of us who are coming from Sacramento are leaving Tuesday. Everybody else is leaving Wednesday. And but the pieces are coming together, and it's really exciting. There's going to be some amazing organizers speaking at this conference. It's not really like a big talking heads Politico conference. It's a conference for organizers, and as such, the people that you'll be hearing from are people who are doing on-the-ground organizing, not just intellectuals or think tank people. And as such, you'll get real, tangible stories about what's happening in communities across the nation for in all of this work, and success stories, but also some real conversations about what we're up against. And it'll be a great opportunity to strategize with others. So please join us. And if you can't make it because you're too far away, you could do two things. One, make sure that you stay tuned in for the next one, which will be, not probably in about 18 months, but you don't want to miss it next time. And then we will be doing some live streaming through Free Speech TV of some of the convention-wide plenaries and discussions. So you can find out about that on our Facebook page. We'll let you know what to expect there. And then also we'll be doing some live reporting just like this from the convention. And right now we're talking about trying to do that every night at around 8 Central. Although I was just looking at the schedule, and at least for the opening night, we actually probably need to do it a little bit later. So we don't have the final time, but basically every evening, it'll be a little bit late for those of you on the East Coast, a little earlier for those of you here on the West Coast. We'll give you kind of a summary, and we'll have some interviews with people who are there, so you can also get a sense of what's going on the ground, even if you can't make it.
As I think about, I'm so looking forward to going to this democracy convention. It's the first one that I'll be attending, and I recently wrote this piece called Going Back to the Future, because this really is, to me, kind of like an experience of going back to the future, because I've been thinking so much about where certain of our founders kind of went wrong in terms of establishing a democracy in the country. And this is kind of like a reboot, and how much for us, for we the people, this is a reboot for us. And so this could be a reboot for us. And so, and thinking about what the country was then, which was, very agricultural dependent countries with small tradespeople, no big corporations and no real, industry, and how much it's really changed. And when you think about it in those terms, it kind of already sets in motion wheels that are saying, wow, we have really gone pretty far on this document. It's kind of outdated. And I'm hoping that with all these different points of view and all these people working in all these different silos, that this is the beginning of all kinds of organizers and all of the different movements that are operating in the country to get today to start coming together to unify demand so that we can begin to speak with one voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that especially for our conference, if we're talking about the Constitution, we should, think back to the moment where it came from, and we'll be starting off our conference with a plenary on why we need to democratize the Constitution, why we would have a conference on that topic, and how it is that we don't have a democratic constitution, and it's It's not because of Trump. It's not because of Citizens United. It's not because of Bush. It's not because of Clinton. It goes way back. It's not because of just slavery, and the fact that we ended it. It's a document that was set up to protect the property rights of those with the most property, and it's been a struggle all along from the rest of us versus those with the most property on who it actually would defend. And so we do have, 27 amendments. Most of those are about, expanding the rights for people. Not all of them, but, that's not very many considering what we started with, and especially because 10 of them came right at the beginning. And so we really want to open up the door. Not like we want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but also, rethink kind of the framework we're operating from, which is incorrect, that this is the best democracy in the world, that our Constitution is the best Constitution in the world, that it was really about populist democracy ever, and, throw the door open to imagining what do we really need in terms of foundational law to ensure human rights, so that we wouldn't be in a situation like we find ourselves this week with this healthcare ridiculousness, right? Yes,
exactly.
Oh, gosh.
And also, on so many levels, yes.
Right. Well, and I do
we
just
want to... today that...
We
found out today that the major electrical industries also knew about climate change, so that, that just kind of fits in, just like Exxon. That's how the Constitution works for the propertied class.
Right. Yeah, and I just wanted to say one thing about the healthcare thing. I mean, we don't, it's still very up in the air as to where it's all going to land, but I don't think it was positive, what happened yesterday. But, regardless of kind of who you support, Democrats, Republicans, Independent, Greens, whatever, I think you could just step back from this whole thing and look at how what we got with Obamacare was some steps in the right direction in some ways, but at the end of the day, ensuring that private corporations still came out with their profit as the main agenda of that reform was, that was sort of the bottom line. That was not on the table to extract healthcare corporations, insurance companies from the conversation. And so because of that, we got some pretty flawed reform, and there are a lot of people who actually now are having to pay more for healthcare. And while more people do have healthcare, a lot of people who have it, it's not affordable for them. Right? And so there's legitimate complaints and problems. And so as a result, we have this very vulnerable, move that was maybe progressive in some ways forward that now is vulnerable and subject to the situation that we're in now, where, the other side can basically try to wipe it away, which is going to have huge implications for millions of people that will also be bad. And so, I don't even think that you can talk about it in terms of Obamacare versus Trump care and which one is better. It's neither one of them take private insurance companies out of the equation, who really shouldn't be involved at all when we're talking about how best to serve people's health needs. Profit should not be part of that. And if we had done that in the first place, then people would love their healthcare like they do in other countries where they have universal healthcare. And the Republicans would have no opportunity right now. There would be completely a non-starter. And so, not that it all goes back to the Democrats and Obama, but they work together to bring us to this situation. And that's just one of the many reasons why we actually need to really change our Constitution so that entities that are making a profit do not have the right to say we should have a seat at the table as you're deciding public policy in terms of what's best for people's health or the environment or communities and well-being, all of that. We need them out of the equation, and then we would be, then these problems wouldn't be that hard to solve, actually.
And that's all they make. That's all they make is a profit. When you look at other big corporations that are, disliked, or other industries that are kind of disliked for their bad behavior, Exxon, for all of its many faults, I'm no fan of Exxon. At least it makes something. It creates a product. There's something tangible at the end of it. Yeah, they're making profits, but they're making a profit, and it is actually, helping people. Where insurance companies, all they do is make a profit. They don't provide health care. They don't. That's all they do. They're just there to make a profit. Talk about a con job. But anyway, we're off track.
A little bit, yeah. But I think this is what is on so many people's mind right now. If you're paying attention, of like, how did we even get here when solutions that we need are not even, we're a million miles from even being able to talk about them in Congress.
And we definitely are. And that, I'm sure, is going to be a big topic of discussion at the Democracy Convention, because, I live in a pretty red state, and more, and in my little community, I've talked about Medicare for all for a long time, and there isn't that much difference between me and my more conservative counterparts here. This is an agriculture community, they all have parents who are on Medicare, and thank the stars that they have it. And, so this is a part of the country where people like their Medicare. And once they understand what Medicare for all is and how it actually works and how it saves money, they would be happy to have Medicare for all.
Right.
So it's being made into a partisan issue, which is wrong. Because the fact of the matter is, illness is not partisan. It strikes everybody, and regardless of your demographic, your age, your wealth, so.
Well, and the irony of John McCain
crazy.
Coming back to vote when he has basically, the kind of health care that people should have on our dime. It's just like, okay. That is rich. All right. So before we move on, though, to some other stuff, did just want to make sure that folks know that we're in our last days of fundraising to pay for the convention, move to amends part of the convention. And we haven't reached our goal yet, so we still need to raise $2,666 by the end of this week is our goal. So if you can kick in some dollars to help us with that, we'd really appreciate it. Garrett and Keyan will post the link to do that. Thanks so much to everyone who's already chipped in so far. We're, having to do this fundraising so that we can be sure that we don't go into debt for doing this event. So thanks for helping us pay for it, even if you're not going to be able to come. The experience for others, and then, like I said, we will be doing some live streaming and stuff so that folks who are not there will get the benefit of learning about what's been going on. And we did want to talk about something else that's going on in Congress this just right now too, that we're getting some questions about and things. Laura, do you want to launch into that?
Yeah, while this big healthcare debate is going on, there's another issue that is really actually picking up some steam, and folks are right to be upset about their right to be upset because their right to assemble is being threatened by a bill now being considered in Congress, which would affect the boycott, sanctions, and divestment movement, or BDS movement, as it's commonly known. It was inspired by the South African anti-apartheid movement. It is a Palestinian-led movement for freedom, justice, and equality, and it urges action to pressure Israel to comply with international law. The bill now before Congress is called the Combating Vds Act of 2017, and it would levy heavy fines and possible imprisonment for parties convicted of violating it.
So we want to talk about it because there's a lot of confusion out there surrounding the bill. So it's actually meant to curtail the activities of states, local governments, and corporations, not individuals. It was introduced with bipartisan support to clarify a law passed back in 1977 to counter the Arab boycott of Israel, which prohibits U.S. companies from taking part in state-led boycotts of Israel. So the new bill expands the law to include any boycotts initiated by the United Nations or the European Union as well.
So much for globalization.
Yeah. Only in certain
so
circumstances.
Congressional staffing. Yeah, right. So congressional staffers suggest that some members are looking to clarify the language of the bill through amendment to state that individuals are exempt. But this law, if passed, would impact the BDS movement's ability to get local and state governments to divest, undermining the BDS mission.
So what we have in this country is law that endows corporations with the First Amendment right to speak, and another law that prohibits corporations from speaking against Israeli settlements by participating in boycotts. And we believe that corporations are not entitled to human rights at all, and if our Constitution reflected that, neither of those two laws would be necessary, as corporations would be regulated by the people through our elected officials. And also, this law, limits the right of local governments to sort of stand up and stand for things. And I just want to say a quick aside, I'm a little bit off script, but we actually have a session at the Democracy Convention looking at how we could protect against things like this so that local government would have more authority in sort of offering direction to our federal government when they're off base on issues around justice or environmental protection or things like that.
Another good reason to go. The problem we have here is that the Supreme Court has endowed corporations with human rights under our Constitution, and for all intents and purposes, under the law, there's no difference between you and me and Exxon. So what we have here is a situation which simply would never have happened if corporations were just corporations and not people. But since they are people, how can the law on one hand protect their speech and then prohibit political speech?
So, and also, if the people in any jurisdiction vote to boycott or divest or sanction Israel, and it follows that if there's this logic around Israel exists, then potentially it could go further into other areas as well. So if that isn't punishing the jurisdiction the same as punishing the people, and supposedly we're the sovereigns of this nation and our government is supposed to be acting on our behalf. So when our local government acts on our behalf and is punished, then that's basically punishing us. So this bill is clearly designed to stifle dissent, and that is not a good idea.
So both laws should be discarded on the basis of limiting speech for political reasons. We, the people, have the right to speak and assemble, whether or not the Constitution says so. And we should speak and assemble to force government and corporations to respect human rights at home and abroad. So let's move into the highlights from July.
Okay, let's do that.
So moving along on what's happening with our strategic plan, we're halfway through the year, so it's a good time to check in on a few things. House Joint Resolution 48, introduced January 30th. We're up to 44 co-sponsors. Our goal was 35 by the end of the year, so we're doing absolutely great on this one. Our big goal for this year is to get the We the People Amendment introduced in the U.S. Senate. Caitlin laid the groundwork when she visited several senators in June, and now we need to put the pressure on these senators when they come back to their home states during the August recess. So tell us about the We the People Lobby Month, Caitlin.
Yeah, so We the People Lobby Month is actually in August. So this month we've been working on making sure that everyone knows about it. Things got a little bit topsy-turvy here with the Senate only now having 2 weeks of their recess because McConnell said that, they have to stay there and work out this health care situation, or not work out, but whatever they're going to do. So it's a little bit messy this year, and typical, everything about 2017, and Washington is off and not really working the way it normally does in so many ways. So we'll take what we can with that, but basically we have folks all over the country. There's still time for you to participate in We the People Lobby Month and schedule in-district visits with your senators or House members if they're not yet co-sponsors. Want to particularly name folks if you are in Montana. Your Senator John Tester is one of our key targets. If you are in Rhode Island, Sheldon Whitehouse, another one of our key targets. Sherrod Brown in Ohio. Al Franken and Amy Klobuchar in Minnesota. Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey in Massachusetts. Kamala Harris in California. And Jeff Merkley in Oregon, and Tammy Duckworth in Illinois. So that's not to say that those are the only senators that we want to try and have meetings with, but those are some of our key priority senators based on past conversations, based on how much activity we have in their states, based on things that they have said, either campaigning or in Congress. And so if you live in any of those states, Montana, Rhode Island, Ohio, Minnesota, Massachusetts, California, Oregon, or Illinois, we definitely would like your help in making sure that these senators hear from constituents now that they've heard from Move to Amend National, and then we'll be following up again in September as well. So Garrett will post the link to We the People Lobby Month, and the webinar recording that we did at the beginning of July is available on that page, along with all the tools that you will need to get started to set up these meetings. If you've never done it before, that's okay. We can help you. We have a lot of people who lobby for the first time and actually come out pleasantly surprised about how empowering it is. So we're hoping for meetings with the actual senators themselves, but again, because of sort of this weird schedule thing, it might end up being staffers. But really, at the end of the day, the staffers are who inform their bosses on what they should and shouldn't support. So convincing staffers why we need this amendment in the Senate is every bit as valuable, if not actually kind of more important, than talking to your representative themselves. So please do go check out the page on We the People Lobby Month and sign up to get involved and to set up a meeting with either your House member or your senators or both. All three, I guess I should say.
And also I'd like to add that if you have friends or family that are like-minded in those states, give them a call and let them know how easy it is to do. And you could even do them simultaneously while you're visiting your senator. They can be visiting theirs. Make it a family affair.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. Let's see. Some other stuff from July. Just the We the People Listen campaign is underway. It's ongoing. It's also flexible, so there's still plenty of time to get involved. We the People Listen is a door-knocking campaign with a survey. So if you want to find out what your neighbors or community members think about corporate power and how it affects their lives, if you want to help us have a better sense of, talking points that are effective and kind of where people are coming from, the We the People Listen campaign is good for all of that. And also just a great way to connect with people that you might not otherwise get an opportunity to. So all the details are on our website as well at movetoamend.org/listen, and Garrett will post that link too, so that you can easily find out about it and get plugged in with that as well.
So the affiliates have been very busy this past month.
Yeah, we can go back and forth on these if you want. First of all, I want to welcome our newest Move to Amend affiliate in Brainerd, Minnesota, Lakes Area Move to Amend. They've been working for quite some time, actually, with Move to Amend, but now they're officially an affiliate. They have come on board, so welcome, and thanks for all your good work, and looking forward to working with all you folks in the Lakes area in Minnesota.
And we'll be seeing them soon at the Democracy Convention, one can hope. And we want to give a big shout out to the Minnesota State Network for their continued work to earn organizational endorsements, outreach to local colleges and universities, and of course, helping spread the word about the Democracy Convention coming up in their state.
Yeah, and also great job to our Ohio State Network for reaching out to local supporters and cultivating new affiliate organizers. I think we're going to have a couple new affiliates come on in Ohio as a result of affiliates helping their neighbors. And also a shout out to our outreach co-director, Greg Coleridge. He was featured in the local Cleveland Scene magazine for his tireless activism and organizing work with Cleveland Heights Move to Amend. So this is one of our national staff members now, but recognized for all the local work that he's been doing for years in Ohio and Cleveland Heights in particular. And I think that's our affiliates. Yeah, good job, everybody.
Yay, affiliates. So what's ahead for August and beyond?
Okay, so August is We the People Lobby Month, as I said, and that's kind of actually one of the big things for that month. So we'll be at the Democracy Convention in the first week, and then when we get home, we'll be working to support all the work that folks are doing with these congressional meetings. So we're doing a big push with our Congress members to ask House members and to co-sponsor House Joint Resolution 48 and our senators to introduce a companion bill. So that's actually a lot of what that covers August. Democracy Convention plus We the People Lobby Month is pretty much what we've got going on for August. So we really want to target that so that we can get everybody who wants to plug in with Move to Amend zeroing in on that campaign so that we can meet our strategic plan goal of getting the amendment introduced in the Senate this year. We're also doing a good bit of organizing around our speaking tours, and so those will be coming up in the fall. So we'll be in Ohio in September. We'll be in Pennsylvania and New Jersey and Delaware in October. We'll be in Arizona in November. And then we'll be in Oregon in December. So big rest of the year in terms of speaking tours, and we do these events all over the country, like a presentation introduction to Move to Amend. Ooh, sorry, the dog busted her way into the house, and so that's very loud. Sounds like an elephant coming up on me. So we do a presentation on Move to Amend in lots of towns, but we also do kind of organizing skills training for our folks on the ground. So each of these tours is a combination of both of those kinds of events. And if you live in Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Arizona, or Oregon, we will be coming to you. So stay tuned. And Garrett will post the link where you can stay in the loop about the tours coming up in your community and which specific towns we'll be in. And if you want, you could organize us to come to your town. So if you're in any of those states, please do let us know, and we can work together to make sure that we stop in your town and you could help us put on an event. So I think that's
and if you're not,
oh, go ahead.
Well, and also if you're not in one of these states, that we respond to you. We come to your state because people contact us and ask us to come and do this. So if you're interested in having Move to Amend Barnstorm in your area, it won't happen this fall because we're booked up. But you do need to contact us and let us know, and we'll try and work you into the schedule next year.
Yes.
And how do they do that?
Well, the link...
Keyan or Garrett will post that on the
Yeah, it's the same link. You can see the schedule coming up, but there's also a place where you can request a stop in your community. So movetoamend.org/barnstorming, and they'll post that. So I think that's the end of our report for August. We're really, or our July, and then for August, we're going to really be zeroing in on We the People Lobby Month and trying to make good progress there. And then I'll be going to D.C. again the second week of September to try and follow up on all of the grassroots lobbying and advocacy that will be happening in August. So we'll get to talk about that later as we get closer to it. But we're happy to take any questions if folks have them. I know that there have been some technical difficulties this time around. So thanks to those of you who hung with it, and apologies for those of you we lost. We will post the recording as always, and that tends to work pretty well. Sometimes the live stuff is sort of hit and miss, and I think today it was particularly bad, which maybe it's just like my bad luck. Everything technology-wise today has been a fail. So sorry if I tainted the live report too. I don't know what I've done wrong to anger the technology gods, but something. So Keyan or Garrett, do we have any questions? You guys can post your questions in the comment. You could question about anything that Laura and I have touched on today, but also anything Move to Amend related. We'd be happy to respond to. Not seeing anything. Garrett or Keyan, can you at least just post something so we know that your silence doesn't mean everything is broken and we've been talking in a void for the last 40 minutes.
Well, it would be a shame if that happened, but on the other hand, we always have nice discussions.
Yeah.
Even if it is just the two of us, which I'm sure it's not.
Someone's asking for a reminder.
I have faith in our membership.
Someone's asking for a reminder of what BDS stands for.
BDS stands for boycott, divest, and sanction. And it is a movement to get organizations, companies, local governments, colleges, universities, whatever, to boycott, divest, or sanction Israel until they come into compliance with international law.
All right, it looks like there aren't any questions. So, again, thanks to everyone for tuning in. And those of you who listened to the recording, hopefully it worked better than those of you trying live. And if you have questions now, you can go ahead and post them, and we will follow up and get back to you so you are not left hanging. So, let's see. We will be on next week during the Democracy Convention. Right now, the plan is tentatively 8 Central every night starting Wednesday, so that'd be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Democracy Convention is 5 days, and we'll be offering a live report every evening, 8-ish or later Central. And so hopefully we'll see you back here then, if you're not with us in person in Minneapolis. And then we will be back here for our monthly live report on August 23rd. Always the 4th Wednesday of every month at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. So, you have anything to say closing-wise, Laura?
Well, I think that wraps it up. I hope I actually get a chance to meet all of the people who've been tuning in to our report here at the Democracy Convention. And if not, we hope you'll be tuning in. If you can't make it, we hope you're tuning in.
Okay. Yeah, thanks as always, Laura. And have a good night, everyone. And we'll either see you next week or see you next month. And please feel free to, please do share this video with your friends after the recording posts, so that more folks can learn about Move to Amend and the campaign to pass the 28th Amendment to end corporate personhood and get money out of politics. And if you haven't yet signed our petition, down right here, please follow the directions. Sign up at movetoamend.org/motion to join the campaign. Happy July, everyone. We'll see you in August.
Peace out.